Prince Harry and Prince William's uncle, Robert Fellows, passed away. He was 82 years old. We don't know cause of death yet, but he was a much more prominent name in the late 80s, early 90s. He became Princess Diana's brother-in-law in 1978 when he married her sister, Lady Jane Spencer. But we heard his name a lot throughout the 80s and 90s because he was the one that had to deal with Princess Diana. And what a unique position for him. He was Before he worked for Queen Elizabeth as her private secretary, he worked in a bank. I believe he worked in banking after he worked for Queen Elizabeth. But not only is he Princess Diana's brother-in-law, but he's having to sit there and sternly talk to her about some of the things that are going on behind the scenes with her and Prince Charles. Specifically, she lied to Robert Fellows when she told him that um, she did not participate in Andrew Morton's book, Diana, Her True Story. And I think that disappointed him, obviously, because if anything, Fellows is going to be remembered as a man that was fiercely loyal to the crown. He did have, you know, family contacts. I mean, he obviously felt lovingly towards Princess Diana. He met her when she was a younger girl, but ultimately, he was fiercely loyal to Queen Elizabeth and the late Queen Elizabeth and the crown. He was also the maternal cousin of Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, and she has spoken in the past about having to sit down in front of him, her cousin, and him, reprimanding her for the way she was behaving within the royal family. So I think he's has a great reputation when it comes to his life of service. Serving the crown and his relationship with Queen Elizabeth. Even though he stepped away, he actually came back after Princess Diana died in a car crash and advised Queen Elizabeth on how to navigate a really tough situation, because at the time Queen Elizabeth was getting receiving a lot of negative headlines for not responding in the way people wanted her to. And so Robert Fellows came back and spent a significant amount of time helping her navigate such an unbelievable circumstance, which was also affecting his life behind the scenes too, because that was his sister-in-law, that was his wife's sister, and we saw how devastated Lady Jane was throughout the process of losing her sister. It was Lady Jane and um, King Charles, along with one of Diana's other sisters, that went to collect her body. We physically saw that the devastation on their faces. But he said after Diana's death that Princess Diana was a good person. And I always thought it was interesting because he said he was deeply fond of her and she found it difficult in life to find happiness. And he said, I'm sad for people who have that situation. So clearly an intimate knowledge of what was going on behind the scenes. And we have not heard from Prince William and Prince Harry as of this recording. However, one of Prince Harry's friends told the Daily Beast on Wednesday that this will be a devastating blow to the Spencer family, and that it's pretty unimaginable that Prince Harry won't be there to support Jane. In normal times, he absolutely would be, but everybody under current circumstances feels like Prince Harry's attendance at a funeral would create too much drama. And it's putting Prince Harry in a devastating kind of situation, because he wishes he could be there, but he understands that it might not be appropriate for him to be there. So he's in America alone and sad on his own. He's obviously got the support of Meghan Markle, but he really just kind of feels isolated while his family is dealing with such a devastating death and a huge loss. We recently saw the Spencer family really step up for Prince Harry at the 10th anniversary of the Invictus Games. Will they, won't they, was the big debate leading up to Prince Harry's return to the UK to do this formal event for Invictus. 10 years, this is his legacy project. We wondered if we wondered if King Charles might show up. We wondered if we might see Prince William. And none of us really debated at the time whether or not we'd see the Spencer family show up in full force to support Prince Harry. And lo and behold, Earl Spencer shows up. This is Princess Diana's brother. We see Lady Jane Fellows show up to support Prince Harry at his 10th anniversary for Invictus. So we are seeing Prince Harry embrace the Spencer side of his family a lot more since he has had a falling out with his immediate family. And I do think that that's something Princess Diana would likely have appreciated. But it is odd to think that he wouldn't be at this funeral, knowing how much Jane has supported him over the last few years. I don't think it's likely that Prince Harry will attend this funeral because I do think that he understands that he is often considered a distraction. And I think he would like to be there and will probably be in communication with everybody that he holds near and dear. But they would probably agree that his presence, it would all versus the legacy of this man, 82 years, 80, such a significant part of royal history, such a significant part of Queen Elizabeth's life. It would be a distraction to have him there at the funeral. And this needs to be about a man that served so selflessly to the crown. And, he had, I'm going to be honest, if you read through books about Princess Diana, about Fergie, he had a bad rap of being the tough guy, of being the cousin or the brother-in-law that had to sit you down and have a stern talking to with you. And I think that you're going to see him remembered so differently now that we've had some time to look back on Princess Diana's life and Fergie's life. I think we're going to say, yeah, that's somebody who was just fiercely loyal to the crown and had a very tough job and executed it perfectly. Knowing that Robert Fellows was in a position of having to kind of wrangle some of those wild duchesses, the young women that, Princess Diana, Fergie, that were so free-spirited. That reminds you of the royal rebel, Prince Harry. And Prince William is very much similar to his father in a lot of ways, a stickler for protocol. He follows the rules. He understands the traditions. He respects the traditions. He celebrates the history of the family, and he wants to continue to fall in line. I think both Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, are just rules followers. They like to know what the rules are, and they like to stick close to them, and that's great. That's fine. But I do think that it would be it would surprise me to see Prince Harry there. Prince William is going to go and honor not only his uncle, but Robert Fellows' life of service to the crown. And I think it's best that Prince Harry sit this one out, because he's just not in the fold anymore. And this is a man that's going to be remembered for having a really tough job and doing the best he could. Robert Jobson has a new book called Catherine, the Princess of Wales, where we're getting new details about a lot of tense behind the scenes moments. For instance, there is a passage in there that breaks down an argument between the Princess of Wales, the Prince of Wales, this is just the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge at the time, William and Catherine, and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, where Catherine wants to confront Meghan about comments she's made about her hormones, basically, calling some reference to baby brain. Catherine feels like that's completely inappropriate. They don't have that type of relationship, and she doesn't, she just didn't feel like it was an appropriate comment for Meghan to make. And Catherine's clearly trying to set some boundaries. And Jobson goes into this moment where Meghan tells Prince William, "Don't put your finger in my face." And I asked Robert, I said, is it as tense as it sounds, or was this just an awkward exchange? Is it just awkward and we are feeling so uncomfortable reading it that it feels more tense than it is? And he said it started awkward, but it ended pretty tense. Then there's this incredible revelation about the day that I mean, remember, it was everybody was floored to see the Fab Four reunited in honor of Queen Elizabeth, the late Queen Elizabeth. She had just passed. Harry and Meghan were conveniently already in the UK for some events, and um, we found out later that perhaps Prince Harry and Meghan were considering going and seeing some of the people that were mourning. When Prince William found out that perhaps they might do that, he said the better idea would be for us all to do this, to show unity for the late Queen Elizabeth. And they did this incredible walkabout. The pictures are going to be seared in our brains forever. The four of them dressed in black, pulling up to Windsor, getting out of the car, and a real uneasy look on Meghan Markle's face. I felt like Catherine, the Princess of Wales, seemed a little bit more comfortable to be there than Meghan at the time. But what we find out in Robert Jobson's book is that it was actually Catherine saying it was one of the hardest days of her life executing this and putting on this show, that this show of unity after all that had happened. Because this is pre-Netflix and this is pre-Spare, but this is after Oprah Winfrey. And I'd argue that Oprah was more devastating than both the Netflix special and the book. And so they smiled, they waved, they greeted people, they showed up in the car together, they left together. And Robert Jobson saying that this was one of the most difficult moments in Catherine's life as a working royal, having to put on this show and having to pretend that water was under the bridge and everything was okay, because ultimately she was very hurt by some of the allegations made by Harry and Meghan throughout the Oprah Winfrey interview. And Robert even says that it was Catherine that wanted that recollections may vary line in their response to the Oprah Winfrey interview, because Catherine and William were fighting to make it a little more, a little more, I don't know, I want to say bolder. They wanted it to be a fiercer response so that there was no question that they disagreed with the commentary Harry and Meghan had throughout that special. They wanted to ensure that people knew that they weren't these people that Harry and Meghan had described them as throughout the Oprah Winfrey interview.